So if you're thinking of moving to Washington State, this video is gonna be all about the top 6 ultra cool small towns that you'll wanna visit once you live here. These are gonna be the places you're gonna take the family, or maybe you're gonna go by yourself on a weekend getaway. All right, so number 1 on the list is probably the most token cool spot. It is that Bavarian small town in the middle of the mountains called Leavenworth.
So yeah, Leavenworth is definitely a favorite. I've been there several times. If you're coming from Olympia, it's about 3 hours drive time. And I would say a little caveat with that, if you're going in the winter, you want to check the pass because sometimes you can get stuck. So the 3-hour trip might turn into 4 or 5, depending on if you need traction tires or all that good stuff. So check that out.
A lot of people will go there for a Christmas tree lighting festival that occurs obviously before Christmas, but the town gets very flooded with people during that time of year. And then also it gets flooded with people in about August because it's right on the river. And so there's a lot of people that will go there to float the river and lounge around outside of the river. Outside of that, it's just the coolest place to just walk around and take in the sights of this kind of Bavarian town.
So if you're gonna visit during the summer, there's definitely some great hiking trails to check out. There's wineries, there's a distillery. So just depending on what your flavor of entertainment is, there's all kinds of stuff to do in the summer as well.
They just built sort of an adventure park there with some sort of a winter roller coaster that goes out over the mountains. And there is an adults only hotel that has an amazing spa that overlooks the river called the Post Hotel. And I do know that in order to get into that place, you do need to make some arrangements in advance because it's very popular. It was built several years ago, so it's fairly new and is extremely popular. It's definitely a place I want to take the wife, but haven't been there yet. Next cool town on the list is in the mountains as well. So for this, you're gonna go over I-90 from Olympia. It's gonna take you about 2 hours, and it's Roslyn, the site of the Northern Exposure TV series.
So if you're visiting Roslyn and you're downtown, definitely check out the mural because that's where a lot of people like to stop and get photos taken. It's kind of a cool thing to do. There's a lot of little shops and things to check out downtown. Also nearby is the Suncadia Resort, which is absolutely beautiful. We stayed there as a team a few years ago, had a pretty good time. Airbnb was awesome, right by the river.
Yeah, you got this huge lodge that is on top of a hill and there's steps all the way down to the river down below. But outside of that, the lodge has a ton of amenities. So if you're there in the winter, it's gonna be mostly kind of snow activities. They have an ice skating rink. They do have an amazing spa with outdoor plunge pools, so warm plunge pools, which is really fun. And then in the summer, most people go there to golf. So they've got multiple golf resorts there that are pretty well known. They've got also a really cool winery where you can sit out on the porch. They have outdoor concerts there as well, right on the patio. So definitely check out the Swiftwater Cellars Winery. The food is pretty good. And like I said, a lot of outdoor concert type of events in the summer.
So a lot of people choose Roslyn because it's so close to Seattle. So like if you're visiting Washington, you're flying into the airport, you want to check out a couple cool towns, this would be within a couple hours of Seattle. Also, if you're a skier, Snoqualmie Pass is super close by.
Number 3 on the list of the coolest, ultra cool small towns, Fairhaven, Washington, up in the Bellingham area. It's about 2 hours and 45 minutes away. And Jessica's gonna tell you all about it because I have not been there very much myself.
Fairhaven is an amazing little town. Like you said, it's near Bellingham, and by near we mean like literally attached to it. So Western Washington University is right in the town or near the town of Fairhaven in Bellingham. It is so close to the border. So one of the things I love about it is you can just travel to Canada within a couple of hours of being in Fairhaven. Another fun thing to do is wander around. There's tons of like little stores, bookstore shopping, gelato, all the fun things about like a little Victorian town. It has that vibe, and it's right on the water as well. So it's very, very beautiful.
Fairhaven is actually really close to the mecca of snowboarding, which is Mount Baker. So in about an hour and 24 minutes, if the weather's not too bad, You can find yourself in Mount Baker to go snowboarding and be with all the legends up there, snowboarding Mount Baker, because that's what it is. It's where the legends are.
Mount Baker is one of the coolest ski resorts in the area, and also little tiny Airbnbs. We talked about that a little bit in Leavenworth. There's tons of cabins out there. So if you're the type of person that just wants like a mountain getaway in a cabin, I think Mount Baker is one of those spots that's really great for that.
Number 4 on the list, if you ever Google Washington, you'll definitely come across these small towns or a collection of small towns, and going to the Anacortes ferry terminal, jumping on the ferry terminal, and then deciding which island you'd like to go to in the San Juans. We're gonna focus on Friday Harbor. It's kind of the one I think that's most visited. And yeah, what's it like to jump on the ferry and go to the San Juans?
I do remember one time taking our bicycles over there, and that was like the coolest trip ever. So we drove to the ferry, dropped the car, and then put the bikes on the ferry. And then from there on, I think we visited like 2 or 3 islands and rode our bikes all around. It was like one of the most amazing trips as a kid.
Did you stay the night? You just had a bicycle?
I don't think we did, but we lived in Bellingham. So from Bellingham to Anacortes is like an hour. So it was a little bit different than coming from Olympia.
Yeah, so most people are gonna drive their car right onto the boat, and it's kind of cool. The ride is long enough there to where you actually get out of your car, you go up to the top deck, you know. The Washington State ferry system is not filled with luxury. You know, there's a
state ferry system.
Yeah, there's a basic cafeteria up there with like some dry popcorn and a hot dog, right? Yeah. And maybe some drinks. Yeah, it's pretty fun, especially if you have kids. They're gonna really enjoy it. You're gonna take that ferry ride, and a lot of people, when they get to Friday Harbor, one of the main activities I know during the summer is people go on boats and they whale watch, right? So they see orcas. Yeah. So if you've never seen an orca,
whale watching is amazing, and also the aquarium there is pretty cool. Have you been inside the aquarium?
Yes. I have, yes. What you need to know about Friday Harbor, San Juan, as much as they've tried, the local economy there is based off of tourism. So there's not a ton of cool luxury things to see. It's kind of being with nature, but there's some great restaurants. There's definitely things to do, but when you walk around, a lot of the restaurants have been there for like 20 years, 30 years, but you have everything you need, and there's a lot of places to stay. There's actually some really cool marinas, you know, resorts that are inside of Friday Harbor, so you got your choice. If you Google it, you're gonna find a lot of options on the different islands to stay at.
So the 3 main islands are San Juan, Orcas, or Lopez. So if you're traveling there, you'll probably end up at Friday Harbor, like you mentioned, which is the main town. But if you have a desire to just check out nature and go on hikes and do things like that, check out all the other islands and see what else there is to look at.
So if you like cool towns that are right by the water, you're gonna wanna check out this next place, Port Townsend. It is about a 2-hour drive going up the Kitsap Peninsula from Olympia. From there, you actually have a ferry terminal where you can visit other spots too. So what do you like about Port Townsend?
So if I had to pick one, this would definitely be my favorite by far. But I grew up there, so I'm kind of biased. So
yeah, that's definitely a bias.
I was born there. But I love Port Townsend. It's surrounded by water. So it's one of the only towns where you have water on all 3 sides. So you really can't get away from the beaches. They're beautiful. Also, as far as I know, one of the only, if not the only, sand beach in Washington State. So it's like, where do you get sand? Well, you have to drive all the way up there to get it, but it's so beautiful. It's also a fort. So World War II bunkers. There's tons of hiking opportunities in Port Townsend. So definitely take your hiking shoes. If it's a warm day, take your swimming suit. It's well worth it. But there's tons of parks. So not just the one for Warden Park. Check it out. There's probably like 20 parks that you can visit between Olympia and Port Townsend. You're going to run across a bunch of parks along the peninsula. It is gorgeous.
What do you think there is for Airbnb or accommodations?
All kinds. There's hotels. There's lots of bed and breakfast. So it's a Victorian town. So you can stay at some really cool old houses.
This video would not be complete if we're talking about the coolest towns or places in Washington to visit without talking about the Olympic National Rainforest, which is not that far away from Port Townsend.
Yeah. Another cool town, just honorable mention, is the city of Forks, which is about 3 hours maybe from Port Townsend, but these are all back roads. So in between Port Townsend and Forks, you're gonna drive through
It's a big area.
Coolest rainforest, in my opinion. Like it looks like a fairy garden the whole entire way. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so you've got the Olympic Hot Springs, you've got Lake Quinault Lodge, you've got all these really cool places. It's a really large area if you look at the state of Washington. So it doesn't really fit our description for small town, but there's a bunch of places within that area that are small towns that you could visit that definitely should be on your list if you're doing your research of coming to Washington and just wanting to see the sights.
So if you don't have time for a weekend getaway, but you're looking for a day trip or just some sort of activity to do, check out a couple of our other videos. We have a top 5 day trip video, and then we have several activities to do around the city of Olympia.
And if you are moving to Washington, if you are relocating, please reach out to us. We can definitely help you. Every day we have people reach out to us and we help them relocate to Washington. So look in the description and find the phone number, send us a text message. We'd be more than happy to help you and guide your search to Washington.